honourable members. Mr. Speaker, as the leader of this House, I crave your indulgence to make a comment. I crave your indulgence on the basis that I will not be long to delay the business of the House as laid out on the order paper. I do not know whether I have your permission, Mr. Speaker.
As leader of the House, I do leave it.
Mr. Speaker, it is important that the public, the general public, know the backdrop to the summoning of this meeting of Parliament. Parliament the date was set for the 2nd of October. Due to my visit overseas for medical attention, the date, at my request to the Honourable Speaker and with the Speaker's concurrence, the meeting of the House was put off first to the 9th and then to today, the 24th. It means, therefore, Mr. Speaker, that there are some events referred to in the letter of the Honourable Leader of the Opposition would have occurred within the period which it would have been required by the standing orders to submit questions to this Honourable House. Mr. Speaker, there are no questions before this Honourable House from the opposition. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, one must conclude that they had determined before several events had transpired not to submit any questions to the House, because in the letter, the case of the registrar before the court is an occurrence. The judgment was only a few days ago. And had they submitted any questions to this Honourable House after the ruling by the sentencing by the learned magistrate in that case, the questions would not have been admissible because they would have been too late. Certainly, there would have been questions which were not there for the 2nd of October. Neither would they have been there for the 9th of October. So, the point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is that there's a potpourri, a makeup of reasons. Like if you're trying to cook a pot, you don't know what to put in it, and you take all the little scraps here and there and you throw it inside. And this is what has happened in this particular case. Mr. Speaker, if you permit me to mention each of them. There is no persecution of bigger bigs, or indeed any continuation of any persecution, none from the beginning. The government acted on the advice of the state officials to terminate the mining operations under the law of bigger bigs at Rabaka. And I myself told him on several occasions when he called me or when we met that all he has to do is to go and talk to the officials of the state, and I named them for him, to give the undertakings and to have an agreement so that his mining can be resumed. Indeed, even after I had written a letter to the Lord Bishop of the Catholic Church, the Lord Bishop himself told me he met him. He met Bigger Biggs and said, "Have you done what the Prime Minister has asked you to do?" He said no, and I'm quoting from the Lord Bishop. Lord Bishop came to visit me at my home on Sunday, the 12th of October, as he would any Catholic who is returning to health or who is sick. And I took the opportunity to speak on that matter with him, with other things too. And it is subsequent to the Lord Bishop's request to Bigger Biggs to engage the government officials as asked for by me, asked by the Prime Minister, that we saw that the planning board took the relevant decision after a subcommittee of persons had met with Mr. Bigger Biggs and his advisors. And the planning authority, the planning board, has 15 members. 12 of them are state officials. Only 3 are appointed by the cabinet. It's not a political issue. And I have no doubt that more will be said about this by me and others as we go along. Insofar as the case of the High Court registrar is concerned, Mr. Speaker, when the registrar, the former registrar, left the country without the knowledge of the state authorities or the relevant state authorities, the opposition said that she'll never come back. They said she will not pay back the money. She will never be charged. When the Honorable Attorney General filed for disbarment of the former registrar, the leader of the opposition said that that is just a smoke screen, not going to come of that. The former registrar came back. She paid back the monies. She was arrested and charged. The Director of Public Prosecution, which is an independent office, laid the charges in accordance with law. She was taken before the court, the magistrate court. She pleaded guilty on 2 charges, not on 1 that was withdrawn by the Director of Public Prosecution. Her lawyer indicated that she's agreeing to the voluntary disbarment. This government has nothing to do with charging anybody. We don't control the DPP, we don't control the law courts. And it is really an insult to the independent institutions of this country that this is used as a reason for not coming to Parliament. It's bizarre. The reasoning, frankly, is schizophrenic. Mr. Speaker, justice is not a cloistered virtue. And it must be subjected to informed, robust, and respectful criticism. And such robust, respectful, and informed criticism strengthens the judiciary, not weakens it. But what weakens the public's perception of the judiciary and the judiciary itself on law and order is when responsible officials like the leader of the opposition set about to make comments which are unjustified in the sense that they lack a material factual base or legal base, or that they are for political purposes or designed to scandalize the court. Mr. Speaker, the proposition which I've just advanced is not a Ralph Gonsalves proposition. Anyone who has read it in 1936 Privy Council judgment of Lord Aitken in a Trinidad case which went to the Privy Council will know that the proposition which I'm advancing there is well established in that particular case. Mr. Speaker, I haven't read up on the case recently, but it's like riding bicycle. Once you read it and you know it and it's so fundamental, it sticks in the hard drive. The question of the ongoing poor and fiscal economic situation, including the high and increasing levels of employment. Mr. Speaker, we have had a debate on this question over all the recent years during the budget, the estimates and the budget speeches. And we have spoken about the challenges and what we have done, and the people understand the difficult circumstances and the way in which we are keeping things together and making progress going forward. I don't intend to canvass matters here, but simply to say that presumably, if they return before the next elections to this Honourable House, it would be therefore, it would be reasonable for one to conclude that the ongoing poor fiscal and economic situation, including high and increasing levels of unemployment, would have been solved or on the way to be solved, and therefore justifying their return. So that on the basis of this, I don't expect to see them for the estimates debate for 2014 and the debate on the appropriation bill or any other matter. Really? The Cliff Valley housing fiasco, that has been dealt with in the public area and it's not a fiasco. A problem arose and we identified quickly the problem and set about solving it. Yesterday, 2 homeowners telephoned me and said, Prime Minister, I want to thank you personally for getting involved, giving the assurances, and to see that the government has followed through on those assurances. We are satisfied. The wall is being the wall is being built, the retaining wall, drainage systems are being put in place, and 6 of the houses, the worst affected ones, are being addressed. I didn't go down since the 13th of October, my first working day after I returned from Cuba. But that's what 2 homeowners told me. And I've contrasted what took place there with the avoidance of responsibility at Gibson Corner by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition when he was Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. The government's debt to the private sector. Mr. Speaker, we do owe the private sector, and that is a matter on an ongoing basis. And we pay our debts on an ongoing basis. But I will say this, if what we are owed in taxes by the private sector in the aggregate, what we owe them would be wiped out and loads of money left over to do lots of things. Of course, this is not in any way to justify anyone being owed any money legitimately on contracted goods and services provided to the state. The state of the National Insurance Services, I don't know what the state of the National Insurance Services he's talking about. It can't be the issue of the matter which was fully debated here, which was ventilated. So, Mr. Speaker, what we have here, and you say among others, they will come in, no doubt, as the mood takes him. This is entirely irresponsible on the part of the opposition. It is, they are scrunting around for a strategy, a political strategy, and they're just failing at every turn. This is feeling today and will feel just like the Ring the Bell, the Comrade Ring the Bell campaign.